A Lexington man is preparing to compete in the Ironman World Championship just 3 years after he nearly died in an accident. Lyle Adams was hit by a truck on New Circle Road while outside of his car dealing with a fender bender.
Well, after taking on that tough recovery, now he's ready to take on this 140-mile test of mind, body, and spirit. LEX18's Kylan Mills has his story.
When heading somewhere new, people often rely on maps to get from point A to point B. Lyle Adams says he had a plan all mapped out 3 years ago to go from retired collegiate swimmer to an Ironman.
Just to be able to look back and say, I covered that distance, I did what I didn't think I could do, I've accomplished what I, set out to do.
But just 3 weeks before competing in the Ironman Maryland, he hit a roadblock he never saw coming.
I was in great shape, I was ready to roll until I was in a little accident on New Circle Road. As I got out to check the damage of my vehicle, another car ran off the road and hit me between the two vehicles.
Police said the driver had a seizure behind the wheel, pinning Lyle between a car and truck for several minutes.
After the vehicles opened up and I fell to the ground, I remember trying to run away and I couldn't.
Lyle says everything from there was a blur.
My dad says it pretty well. He says he got a phone call from my mother, says, come to the hospital. Lyle's been in a bad accident. We don't know if he's gonna make it.
11 blood transfusions and 10 surgeries later, doctors were able to save his life and his legs.
Shattered my pelvis, broke my femur, extensive soft tissue damage to my leg, as well as a torn ACL and a torn PCL, so a lot of recovery.
After 16 days in the hospital, Lyle was bedridden for more than 2 months.
It's the most humbling experience I've ever had. At one point while I was at home, I had 3-person showers. My mother, father, and wife would have to help me.
His sports medicine doctor initially told him he would never run again.
There were times where I was really down.
That's when a friend recommended he meet with physical therapist Jim Rothbauer.
I showed up on day one wearing, khaki shorts and a polo, thinking we were just gonna click off some paperwork. And within 5 minutes, he had me doing a gait analysis, doing a strength analysis. I was sweating through my polo. I knew it was gonna be a good fit.
Lyle started working with Jim at Orthopedic and Sports Physical Therapy in Lexington, but they had to start slow.
I've been a PT for 23 years, and I've never seen anyone with the extent of injuries that Lyle has had.
Lyle, though, only has one speed. He soon was going 2 to 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Eventually, he went from here to here.
This was grueling, but every day when I got done, I knew I was getting better.
Building strength, building muscle back, and building power. It was just very intense workouts that, my feeling was if he was up for it, we were gonna do it.
Lyle says Jim put him back on the map.
Once I was able to achieve that 5K, then I said, I've got to think bigger. What am I gonna do to get back? And then I ran a marathon, and then I said, well, I've already got 1/3 of an Ironman down, why not just knock out the other 2/3? We mapped out another plan.
Last September, he crossed the finish line at the Ironman Maryland.
That race was terrible. It was so mentally grueling, I was uncomfortable. It was the worst race I've ever done.
So naturally, he's coming back for more. His new destination, the Kona Ironman World Championship in Hawaii.
But I don't think there's any way that I don't complete this race.
Lyle applied to compete in the physically challenged division back in the spring. He found out he was one of just 3 Americans chosen.
That's the most excited I've been probably as an adult. You don't really see too many adults get giddy.
Months of training now in the rear view, Lyle says he's ready to compete on the biggest stage in triathlon this weekend.
The opportunity to go out there and to do what less than 1% of the world has the opportunity to do. I'm gonna make the most of it.
Looking back on his accident, Lyle tells us he's not angry. In fact, he's learned a lot.
It's kind of surreal. It's kind of hard for me 3 years out to think about that 3 years ago I got hit by a truck. It seems forever ago and just yesterday. I think I'm a better person as a result of my accident.
Lyle says he's come to realize life is more about the journey than the destination.
I don't take anything for granted anymore. I do my best to live in the moment as well as to help other people more so than I would have.
Sometimes it's okay to not know where you're going, as long as you keep moving forward.
Do what you can. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, that's still progress.
You'll end up exactly where you're meant to be.
I don't think that this accident was necessarily an accident. You know, God has a plan, and thankfully, my plan is working out well.
Indeed, his plan is working out very well, I'd say. Lyle arrived in Hawaii on Tuesday. He's set to compete in the Kona Ironman on Saturday. That race airs on NBC Sports at 1:30 p.m. Kevin and Nancy, such an inspiring story. And that last photo you saw was his wife and his young son. I know those were two big sources of inspiration for him.
How do you not root for this man? This is just incredible.
I'll tell you, you know, the body's an amazing machine, but when you combine it with an iron will,
Yep.
you get an Ironman. Great story, Colin. Thank you.
It makes us all feel so inadequate.